Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, April the 8th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. Our guest for Season 3, Episode 11, is Thomas Fessler. Thomas is a ufologist and ancient alien theorist advocating disclosure, practicing remote viewing, non-local consciousness, and vibratory spirituality. In the summer of 1973, Thomas started his journey into the realm of parapsychology with the close encounter of the third kind in western suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. The experience with our little gray friends and subsequent training at the age of 8 from Silva Mind Control set Thomas on a journey to a mastery of the powers of the mind and beyond, connecting him to past lives, spiritual entities, and visions of the past, present, future, and beyond. Today, Thomas is an enterprise IT architect by day, spending time outside the office, focused on the field of ufology, and is a contributor and co-host to the UFO Man live stream on YouTube. Thomas is an active participant on Twitter in the area of ufology, ancient terrestrials, and powers of the mind. So, Thomas, put on your tinfoil hat. How are you doing this evening?
Ryan, I already have the tinfoil hat on. I couldn't miss this opportunity with my little gray friends behind me here to go ahead and bring out the old mouse ears one more time, except this time giving him the official foil coating and to have a couple discs on my ears.
That is amazing. You are officially the first person to have ever actually put on a tinfoil hat on this show. So that is amazing.
Well, I'm glad I could go ahead and make that a first for the show. It's my life has been filled with a lot of firsts, and it's always just taking them one day at a time.
So now the challenge is to have a serious conversation while looking at you like this. So I want to start, I guess, with ufology. What have you done so far to advocate for disclosure? What are you working on?
What am I working on right now? Is there an issue? Okay, so what am I working on right now? One of the things I'm doing is I'm using, besides going ahead and being a participant on the UFO Man channel and going and taking recent news and discoveries and different things and trying to bring it to the light of our 32,000 subscribers. I'm an active participant on Twitter and UFO Twitter, and the more you get into ufology, the more layers of the onion that get revealed. And as you know, I'm connecting the dots and seeing more. It's trying to start, critical conversations, trying to look at the UFO situation we've got going on now, besides more than just love and light and everything's great and let's connect with them and bring them down, and trying to do a real assessment, looking at both sides of the situation and trying to look at it for what it is versus this alternative dialogue of let's put on our blinders, act like it's the second coming of Christ and they can do no wrong, when a lot of things that I've heard from a lot of people who have been abducted, allegedly, or have been abducted, it's not the best things that go on. It's a situation where people are being kidnapped, they're being assaulted multiple times. They follow you throughout your life. Once they get a hold of you, they don't leave you alone. It's a whole lifetime adventure for a lot of people that goes through it. And for a lot of people, it kind of, throws them into a loop that's hard to get out of.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. That's exactly what, where we stem our research from too as well, is there's just so much more than this. I'm quoting this term from Joel from UAP Research, UFO porn. And there's just so much out there that everyone, like today, something is flapping about right now that everyone's excited about, but no one has a chance to investigate it yet. So I do appreciate the fact that you have that broad understanding, and you have a real grasp of what is going on. So when you say you want to understand what's really happening, what is really happening according to you? What is your perspective on this?
For me, kind of understand what's happening is I have to kind of, if you want to call it, go back on my personal experience back in Chicago, 1973. Like one of the things that I've kind of, the light bulb went off. The more research you do, the more people you talk with, the more information you get. Was looking back in my mind's eye, which I'm pretty good at the different events that have been refolded back into my memories that were kind of blocked out for a period of time, was the light that came from the craft. It flooded the room initially, really bright, but it wasn't blinding. Almost put like a fog inside of the house to a degree. Outside in the yard, seeing how the different things were illuminated by it. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't any shadows cast by the stuff, which means when I looked up at the craft and saw the darkness of the saucer underneath with the centralized light that was underneath it, looking up into it, there wasn't a ton of light going off in the area. But what it kind of was after I recently got an infrared-based camera that I'm talking to you guys on right now, was that looking at how infrared images look, looking at how the colors of the brightness of the spectrum changes. It's kind of what I was seeing was almost equivalent to that. It's like putting a different filter on the light of things that you're seeing. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's kind of, popped in my mind is, if this wasn't light from the craft, is this something that has to deal with the gravitational field, the manipulation of the space-time continuum, where the UFOs go ahead and surround the area that they're working within their warp field and operate within a place where no one can touch them because they're in a different time space than what's going on. And being able to see my house from the age of probably 4, looking down from about 180 to 100 feet in the air, looking down and seeing my front yard and the crabapple tree and the trees in front of the house and the whole thing, and having it being in that almost not really a negative view, but it's that infrared view that I was looking down again with no long shadows that kind of should have been there, casting off from the different objects. It was just the prettiness of how it looked and how mm-hmm. cool it looked, but things were missing. And it beyond time, if that makes sense.
So the investigator hat's on too. So like if the shadow wasn't there, would that mean like that it was too high, or was it low? Like where was the other light? So was it nighttime? Was there
it was probably about 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Give or take about 1:25 or so. I kind of remember seeing the clock over the television set. If you want, I can kind of give you an accounting of kind of what took place.
Yeah, sure. If you want, Go ahead.
All right. Hot summer night in August, and we didn't have air conditioning. The attic fan we had in our house, whole house fan, pulling the air up, and they got turned off, and everyone went off to bed and everything like that. Probably, as a kid, I'm going up there at 9 o'clock. Dad comes up to bed, 11, 12 o'clock to a degree, shuts everything down. And it was about an hour and a half later where, out of nowhere, I opened my eyes wide awake, and there's a gush of wind coming in the air. I mean, in through the windows. And it's almost got the curtains like flapping in the wind and going off. And it's like, these are heavy curtains that my mom made with this really freaking heavy material. So there was a sizable wind coming into the room. When that happened, I opened my eyes and instantly something said, "Get to the basement now." And not thinking about my mom and my sister, my dad, or anything to that extent. I just took off from the bed, threw my covers back, ran down the hallway, down the staircase, and I got down in front of the television set. And I was down on one knee, huffing and puffing. Well, my initial memory was going to sit on the couch, going to sit on another chair by the stairs, and then my dad coming down, yelling at me, saying I'm making way too much noise, which I didn't understand what he was talking about, and get your ass back up to bed. Which I did. But throughout the years past that, the flashbacks of what took place started just coming back. And it's just like a snip of time would come back with all the emotion, all the things that are going on. And there was this connection of all these different scenes that came back in a disconnected order that were basically what was kind of locked away, and using what I learned in Silva Mind Control and locking more of it. So when I got down in front of the television set, huffing and puffing, I was looking down at the floor, and then as I looked up, the white light came in through the windows. And every time I think about it, it's hard to see it, but it basically raises the hair on my entire body, and this feeling of elation, like you don't care, like you're in this just euphoric kind of a state where at the slightest suggestion, you're just going to go follow along and listen to it, which I was in. And from there, I got up and kind of went towards the door, which I kind of remember seeing about three of these guys, either they were there or like a projection me kind of remember seeing them and going out the basement door, looking at the concrete, seeing how it was looking in the light, going up the staircase, 3 or 4 stairs into the wet grass, walking across it underneath the clothesline, getting out to where my mom's garden was, turning and stop and looking up and seeing the stuff above me. No fear, no nothing, just in this state of euphoric, like suggestion of they're telling me where to go. I don't know that. I didn't hear anything. I just knew what I needed to do, and I was just kind of following along like I was on autoplay. So from there, the next thing that I have is I'm standing in a tight quarters. It's like not that much bigger than my width or my depth, taller than what it is, and there's a red strip light going down along my leg, and I'm terrified. And whatever they had me under was kind of not quite affecting me in that kind of penned up state. From there, I remember going down some kind of like a corridor coming to where there's a door or an opening. And we came into this kind of a circular space where there was a table off to the left-hand side. And I remember being on that table, the bright lights above, there's 2 grays at my feet and one up by my head. And I'm terrified. I'm screaming. I'm in pain. And I want them to stop. Please stop. I just want to go home. And the one that was here got into my mind, and he's never left. And basically said, it's okay. You'll be home soon. And then I got a projection, like I'm looking out of a window down, seeing my house with the trees and an illumination and everything, with the entity kind of standing behind me, trying to calm me down so they could do whatever they want to finish off. And that's one thing I have not tried to unlock because I'm not sure if I want to know. From the next spot, it was me walking on the front yard, coming away from the center part of the yard, around the tree, back into the house, and then going and sitting by the phone where my dad came and yelled at me from. And that's what kind of made sense of him, that I'm making a lot of noise and other stuff. If he was or was not part of into the field, which I probably would think everyone would in the house at that particular state probably was on a incapacitated state, so they could do what they could do.
You were 4 at the time?
Yeah. It was 4, right around 4 or 5, because I think it's right. You know, I'm looking at the timing of everything, and it was right around 73.
Yeah. So what I'm just drawing from your bio here, the math here, 4 years later, at 8, you said, you know, you started training from Silva Mind Control. So what is Silva Mind Control, and what happened between 4 to 8 to lead you up to 8?
I started talking about different things about the stuff that had happened, and was getting to thing like I'm making stuff up that people don't want to, you know, believe what I have to say. I was just Tommy making things up again. And I wasn't making things up. I was damn serious because you had to be. But I'm, you know, and it was from there, it was having recurrent nightmares of the event happening again, and always being afraid that they're gonna grab me and take me away. And that was just something that was a fear that I had, and countless, just a lot of time that it was just became part of me.
Okay. So what is Silva Mind Control? What is that?
Silva Mind Control was a classes that were popular back in the 70s to basically teach people the powers of the mind, to teach them the ability to go ahead and do out-of-body experience, how to leave your body and go up and go through the door, Then when you go through the door and you go through the initial state you're in, you find the next door, and then you leave to go to the next place that you're going to go to. It was basically giving me that training, those initial steps of how to jump in and do that. But there was also stuff relative to contacting your higher self.
Right.
With an exercise, it was really simple. Something you don't know where it is. You clear your mind and you say, here. The first thing that comes to mind without you thinking about it, you go and look. Chances are you'll find it. And it was being able to gain that understanding of that inner communication that's there and just running with it and, you know, letting it guide your life.
No, I appreciate that. So my question is how does somebody 8 years old get involved in something like that?
Well, my mom has had insomnia.
Okay.
And she couldn't figure out how to get past it, how to cure it. And it was something my dad had seen and said, Ginny, why don't you go ahead and go to this? And the three classes that I attended, which were very impactful for me, were times that my mom couldn't have anyone else to take, to take care of me at that time. And I came in, I would lay down and do all the different stuff. And my mom's just there, I guess, and talking to her in her older age with her eyes closed and not seeing anything. But I'm following along, leaving the body, doing all these great things that they were describing. But it was real easy for me to pick up and just frickin' run with.
That's what I was going to say. Like, did you find, like, it was good that you gravitated towards that, sensing that your mom was somehow involved in that too previously as well. There's that generation thing, but then you're finding it easy. So then, I guess moving forward in your life, you got involved with parapsychology first.
Yeah, well,
I'm just trying to timeline this because, I have a theory.
After stuff with Silva and opening up, I'm not sure if that's where my dabbling in kind of vibratory spirituality kind of came in, because there were a whole bunch of meditation tapes my mom had from this one missionary. And you basically went and just listened into and followed through it. And many, many times I would just have this unbelievable white light and energy just come down and fill up my body to a point where it was just like it was freaking exploding out. So it was just kind of, learning different places you can go, connect with the source and bring down the energy. And then eventually learning how to start using it.
So that's interesting. So when you go back to your experience or your contact experience, do you I know you were afraid at that time, but do you think that visitation had anything to do with everything else that happened afterwards? Like, do you think that connection to the non-local consciousness and all that other activity would be different had that event not happened?
I'd have to say it did affect me and change me for the rest of my life. And it gave me things that I probably wouldn't normally have had. The one message I was given that is kind of there in the back of my mind is I need to remember. We need to remember. And, in listening to more and more different things that you hear from different people who have had experiences and different things we've had, it's part of it. And it's knowing that I'm here. There's something big that I have to do, whether I like it or not. I've been given things to go ahead and use, and I'm supposed to use them.
I can relate to that, man. I can relate to that. And here we are connected, having that conversation, So
yeah,
it's interesting. So like in our research, I'm seeing the contact first and then psychic ability and then paranormal have you had any paranormal activity happen in your life,
like fully embodied apparitions floating down floating across a space?
Okay.
The first couple times I'd see one time, let's see now, this is back Christmas Eve at a farmhouse in Hinckley, Illinois. The house was probably built in the mid 1800s, so it had a lot of history behind it. This is one of the rooms where you came in, you had your front room, you had your living room, and then you had the dining room, but then you had the butler's pantry thing, and then you had the stuff going into the kitchen. in the kind of or the room before the dining room, whatever they called that. There was a black leather couch that I was laying on. And I remember it was in the middle of the night, and I wake up and I'm freezing cold, even though I've got a blanket and everything on me. And I just open my eyes and I look right out in front of me was this lady in a black dress with some white lace and different trim on it. A full apparition, no feet. And she just almost looked like she was pushing a cart, kind of, but she was just kind of floating along. And I looked at it and I didn't breathe. I was breathing and I was seeing her, and it was just kind of like, holy crap. And I was fine until she stopped and she looked me right in the freaking eyes, and just that face and those eyes and just how the face, everything looked. I was just like, boom, passed out. Opened my eyes the next morning, and it was just like, holy, you wake up in a startle, and it's just like, you realize what the heck you just went through. And it took a couple times of dealing with that, to finally get used to it, to where you could start dealing with it more intelligently and not letting the effect of seeing a paranormal spirit scare the shit out of you.
How do you know it was a spirit?
Well, it was a ghost. She was black and white, fully detailed, transparent. I'd call that a ghost. If she's a ghost, I'd probably say she was probably a spirit of some kind that got left behind or didn't want to leave because either attachment to the house, attachment to the people that were there, kind of like my brother. And when it's time to go, they're not going to leave because they have a whole list of things they want to take care of. And sometimes they'll be around for a long time. Sometimes they'll be around for a bit, maybe, and leave.
When you saw it, was it in this dimension or was it in your mind?
No, it was in that room.
Yeah. Okay.
Going across in front of that doorway, over past the area to where it was a solid wall. Yeah. It was here, embodied in our dimension.
Interesting.
Not something I would make up or see or.
Well, when I say in your head, I don't mean you made it up. I mean the sensory display. So was it in this reality or an interdimensional reality? I'm just trying to get a gauge of how you felt in that time. If it was like right in front of you, physical.
No, she was probably a good 10, 15 feet from me.
Okay.
So it's not like she was like within inches of me or something really close. There was a good distance between us. I was on one side of the room. She was on the other, and probably at least a good 10 to 12 feet, maybe more in between us. I don't remember how big that room was. I mean, I do, but I didn't take out a tape measure and measure it.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So do you think that event is at all connected with your visitation event at age 4?
Whether it made me more sensitive to vibratory energy and spirits, and I kind of attract them, and they think they can, get their message across, or they can be seen. It's like one time I was in a hotel in San Francisco that was one of the few ones that survived the Great Fire of San Francisco. And I was up on the 11th floor. And it was about 1:30, maybe about 2 o'clock-ish sometimes in the morning. And I'm just hearing this spirit going up and down the hallway, making the typical kind of a wailing kind of a sound and things going out of it. And finally it was like, okay, I can hear you. So now please let me sleep. She stopped. She just wanted to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you just need to do, because they can't read your mind. They need, it's kind of, sometimes you just need to tell them or different things to a degree of what they want to hear. And when I went down for breakfast the next morning, and I had no idea this hotel was haunted or anything, and I was at the Continental breakfast talking to the guy who would make omelets and stuff on the other side of the table. And it's like, oh, so tell me what's up on the 11th floor about 2 o'clock in the morning. And he stopped and he put the stuff down, and he's like, oh, you heard something. And it's like, yeah, of course I heard something. Hold on one second here. Sorry about that. I had an alarm and had to tell Alexa to stop. And he's like, "Oh, you heard something?" It's like, "Yeah, of course I heard something." It's like, "Well, there was right after, within so many years of the hotel opening, the elevator doors had opened up on the 11th, and the woman didn't realize that there wasn't the guy there operating the elevator with the elevator, and she plunged to her death on top of the elevator that was to the bottom of the elevator shaft, 11 floors down." And she has been at the hotel ever since.
So, my friend, you possess some sort of psychic ability, I would say.
Kind
you
of.
have some sort of psychogenic strengthening that may have, and I'd have to really dive into it. And I don't normally, I can't say diagnose, but I don't normally conclude on an episode like this without doing an investigation. But it's very possible, because if I were to link what you're telling me to other people that I've investigated, what we call a multiple experiencer, which we're now calling part of the ultra spectrum.
Yeah.
That you meet all the marks, and I would be very, very interested in working with you to get these on paper and perhaps learning more on an investigative point, because my theory is that it is connected, but it starts with visitation.
Yeah.
And
when they go and get in your mind or get in your head, there's something that they're turning on, or there's something that is going on. And maybe that's one of the reasons I need to remember to be able to use all the stuff that I was given.
A lot of the poltergeist activity, the psycho, like the telekinesis, the movement of stuff with their mind. And I know your parapsychology, that kind of stuff usually gets drawn back to the self, saying it's us who are manipulating it. But the thing is the paranormal activity is typically where people start to pay attention because it's weird, but then they don't really realize that they had a UFO or ET event in the past. Right. But then, but the fact is that you've explored your whole life, and that's good. And I'm just,
I mean, before we get to the good stuff, which is even how that
road. Jesus.
There's additional light. I mean, the older I get, the stronger I get. The last year or two has been freaking amazing. Steps and abilities and other kinds of stuff that I can get into. Here's an example of some other stuff of non-local awareness. We're going up to Red Rocks Canyon by the Red Rocks Resort, which is a known UFO place, and they've had a bunch of meteors come in and strike the area and everything. And I'm driving with one car. It's my late best friend, Barry Friedman. He was my agent at the time. And he's in his Volvo station wagon, and I'm driving his wife's VW Bug convertible. And we're getting up near the resort, up near the area, because we're going to go walk around, see if we can, try and find some meteors or something, some, molten metal. So as we're driving along, I have to stop the car and pull off to the side of the road immediately, which I do. And then I jump out of the car, run across the street, down a hill, all up until I come up to this little, like a waterway, dried out. And I follow along it, and I'm just freaking booking as fast as I can. And after I get probably about 30, 40 yards, I stop, turn left, and I take 3 steps, and right down at my feet is a meteor, is a artifact that came in and melted and gave me a chunk, because it had all the different stuff had burned around the area where it had freaking landed. It was amazing, but I didn't know where it was. I didn't know what the hell I was going for, but I knew and I didn't know where the hell I was walking, but I knew exactly how to get there, listening to hear, but not actively looking, just doing what I'm told. And I found it. And I've had many instances like that in my life where there's stuff that I know that I shouldn't know, that's in a proximity to me, and I'm just aware of it, and I know that it's there. And it's short-term precognition. Longer-term precognition is just the stuff, the knowledge just kind of flows to you and pops into your mind, and you just know when to go and do something. and you don't question it, because if you do, you miss it.
Mm-hmm. When you get these messages, do you have any tones or any ringing in the ears at all?
No, it just kind of comes in. And I've learned, if I, kind of chuckle and it's like, no, I think this, I'll get an energy thing back, basically, reinforcing what I was just told, and, different things that have happened when I've second guessed it, which I've learned not to do. I will get the, damn it, I told you so. The next day or so. So it's an enjoyable experience that's, just part of who I am and what I can kind of run into. Now, one thing that was you want to say something, Ryan?
I was just agreeing with you. I was just nodding my head.
Yeah. One of the things that's kind of cool that's happened in my older age, probably within the past 10, 15 years, is when people pass, or they have passed recently, they kind of hang around for a period of time. And I'm kind of sensitive to them to a degree. And I get this energy vibration that basically passes across my entire body. Every person who has passed has a different signature, meaning you may get something going down your arms and hit your knees, and then it goes down to a certain degree. And it's generally enough information to go ahead and figure out who the person is. And if you listen sometimes, and it's not just I'm trying to listen or make stuff up. You just clear your mind in the same way they talk about in remote viewing. And you go ahead and just let whatever comes to mind, and you take it and you repeat it. And it's eerily on target. And the more I've played with it, if you want to call it, because we're all practicing in life. Doesn't matter if you're a doctor, if you're doing remote viewing, if you're using psychic energy or different types of meditation or different stuff. We all practice, and the more practice, the more perfect we get, because you'll never meet a doctor who's perfect. They practice medicine, just like I practice the kind of stuff that I roll with, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first times that I got a hit, it was kind of cool, was this friend of my friend. She had brought out this cookbook, and she was talking about her best friend had just passed away. And it was a cookbook by Vincent Price. And I know him as being like Dracula and being in old horror movies, but I've never heard of him having a cookbook. So she's telling me the whole story about Vincent Price as he's going through, and he was a big restaurateur and went around to all these different restaurants all around the world, and wrote a story about the fabulous meal and how great it was and how he enjoyed it and everything. But then he went back in the kitchen, and he got the recipe and got the story from the chef and everything. And it was a really cool book. And as I was going through it and flipping through it, the energy thing started to hit me. And my husband, Luke, said, embrace it, don't ignore it, and talk through it. And it's exactly what I did. And it's like, okay, I'm getting one of my feelings, and it's kind of in my shoulder and in my chest to a degree. And it's like, how did she die? And she was like, oh, she had a heart attack. I'm like, okay, then explain to me then why my right leg from my knee down feels completely weird, and I just don't get it. It's like, oh, she had her leg amputated when she was 14 years old, and she was never the same. And it's like, okay, well, she's here. It was cool and that's where I kind of put two and two together, where objects that people have, like whether it's a wallet, a keychain, something that you have a lot of contact with, or for me, it'd be my old PS2 keyboards, like I've got here, that I've been using my entire life. Something that you've cherished, something that you've had a lot of contact with, it leaves a resonance energy on it that when you come into contact with it, for some people like me, it gives you the ability to kind of reach out and call someone and be able to make a connection much easier than just trying to do it open air and just try and do a reach out for things. So it's I've thought about that. How can objects on Earth have a magnetic resonance on it? Well, if you think about the Earth, it's a giant battery. It's a giant dynamo. It puts a magnetic field around our entire planet. And if there's anything that could leave a magnetic resonance and power that to kind of be there, it's the planet Earth itself, the biosphere that we live within, that makes that kind of ability to, leave that resonance behind, because I mean, look, face it, we're bioelectrical creatures.
Mm-hmm.
We leave a resonance behind, and we all live within this giant magnetic sphere of the Earth. And it's kind of, for me, it just kind of looked at it like a giant hard drive, a giant memory storage of what's there. And if they talk about spirituality and people going up and being within heavens and stuff, it could be that we're all within the sphere of the Earth itself, of the energy and everything that goes along with it. And it kind of gives it a plausible case for being around, at least in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So let's talk about remote viewing then. So remote viewing at this point in your life would be intentional learning on or trying to see objects in another place, right? Because everything else you mentioned so far has been given to you when you needed to see it. So with remote viewing, you're intentionally putting your thought out there to see something. Do you?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes I'm going and letting it be like chef's choice, for the soup of the day, or chef du jour, and going out and just getting down to that energy field, getting to that particular level. And if it's got something that it needs to show me, it'll show me. And it's done that many times on its own. And sometimes I've gone off looking for things, and I've had some interesting connections that I never ever would have expected.
Have you ever had a negative experience?
Yeah, when I was a kid. I did one of the first times. I was trying to do tea leaves.
Okay.
And like an idiot, I wanted to connect, and they're all talking about God and the devil and all that kind of stuff. I decided, let's go ahead and see if Satan is real. And I connected with this negative entity, and I could see it, and I'm thinking it could see me. So I struggled, and I took the tea cup down, and I put it in front of me, slammed it on the table, and pushed it away, and said, "I'm done." Because it's almost like you're in another place. You're connecting over something else that's there, and whatever it wasn't feeling at all. So it was kind of one of those stupid things you do as a kid that you'll never do again.
Mm-hmm. So Ouija board, in your opinion, is it just a board, or is it a tool, or is that consciousness? Like, how does that work?
I haven't seen it done where it wasn't being manipulated by the people who are doing it, and I haven't watched it being on YouTube and everything. It could be a medium for the energy or residual energy that's in the area to try and get into it and force a discussion of different things. Did I play with one as a kid? Yeah, a bunch of kids did back in the 70s and 80s. But I never really got into it for what it was worth, because I could do more.
Well, you knew that. You're advanced. Okay, so we're gonna pause right here, and I'm just gonna get queued up here. Where's my?
45 minutes already. Holy cow!
Yeah, no, this is great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, thank you so much, because like I had like a bunch of questions. I only asked you 2 of them, and you went through them all. So it's all good. This is great. So we'll pause right here, but we'll continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or on a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/ the Experiencer Support Association to see the video that goes with this audio. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, which is a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis, and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done. And what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence? Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have the sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of my research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon. Welcome back. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. And if you're enjoying this episode so far, head over to patreon.com/the Experiencer Support Association and join the unclassified tier for only a few bucks a month. Your membership will get you at least an extra half hour of this conversation, along with a bunch of other perks for becoming an insider. Also, if you have ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to teslacan.org/reporting system. The more reports we get, the more we will understand the phenomenon and how it affects our people. That the others who have already reported be that example that proves that we are making that difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do. And for that, we thank you. And I'll take this opportunity to tell you, Thomas, encourage you, please report. You do not need it to be investigated. You pretty well know what has happened. However, as you've seen, I saw your facial expressions for the commercials there. So as you can tell, it's not so much me telling you what it might be. It's more so displaying it in such a way that we could use that as an example to encourage someone else to come forward, or someone else can relate and be like, oh my God, that makes sense. Because there could be there's so much.
And I really have to encourage everybody and anybody who's had things happen to them to reach out to Ryan, because the only way we're going to be able to connect the dots is to see the dots and understand them and help us get the big picture of what's going on and what has been going on, how they can come in and do what they want, where they want, when they want, with whomever they want. And the only way we're really going to understand and know what they really did is by people stepping up like I did and talking about it. It's not so bad. I mean, if I go ahead and I put on, my filters from Snapchat, and I turn myself into a kid and I go to talk about the stuff that happened to me, I start breaking down. The emotions just start flowing in, because now I'm that kid again who's going through it again, and it just unlocks so much more. Talking about it as an adult, not so difficult, but it's something that's important that we all need to talk about and have a conversation about.
And I appreciate that, and I do appreciate your bravery too for saying it as well. And so that's it. Let's get into the questions and comments here, and then we'll head over to Patreon and we'll keep this conversation going. So just before we get into that, remember, if you comment in the YouTube channel #Tesa merch, you enter yourself into the draw for this month to win an I Am an Experiencer bumper sticker and a Tesa hat. I don't have it, so you have to #Tesa merch every episode for April in order to be entered into that draw. Okay.
Yeah.
So hello Julie, hello Chantel, hello Shauna, hello Thomas. You messaged everybody here. Let me see here. Any questions from anyone? Julie says, you look like you were just crowned king of the Magic Kingdom.
I enjoy it,
There you go. Right on here. So those of you that were commenting on Facebook, I see it, but I'm not reading it out because you got to be on YouTube. Head over to YouTube. And then everyone was really, hello UFO man. Hello, Tim. How you doing? Tim is our guest next week.
Yeah.
By the way.
Check it out.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Tim. Hello, Angela.
UFO man's had an experience as well.
Perfect. We'll share that if he's willing here, and that'll be a great thing. Nobody's asking questions, eh? You guys are just talking to each other.
Yeah.
You can see these questions too, right?
Yeah.
Angela says, my door locks behind my back, and I don't sense a thing. I can't believe I can't feel it. That's interesting. Let's see here. Just know everywhere. Scary true. That's it. Nobody has any questions. Well, if you guys have a question for Thomas, ask it now. If not, I'm just going to keep picking his brain a bit. Tell me about your parapsychology. Do you have a certificate in that, or
no?
It's
just amateur at this point, and it's just been a field that you want to call it. You experience things. You want to research them. You want to figure out what's the cause of them. Where's the full breadth and scope of everything that you're dealing with? Because, there's a lot of things that can go on in here and beyond, and a lot of things that can go well beyond. One of my adventures, I ran into a method, build energy, use it, and launch it. And I called Colonel John Alexander. We had a conversation, and then he had a phone call that came back with another person who was back from the SRI days, the Stanford Research Institute. And we kind of talked about some of the stuff that I was doing. And they were very serious. They were one of the first people who actually took me serious for some of the stuff that I was talking about. But it was fun when I got to the end. They're like, Thomas, now I want you to listen to me and listen to me closely. Stop what you're doing. You are dealing with things that you have no idea what you're dealing with, and it's kind of dangerous what you're going towards. So please do us a favor and stop. I stopped. I kept on going in other areas because you have to keep on pushing the envelope.
No, you definitely have to. Have you ever... I guess not ever. Would you be willing, for the sake of science, to work with me to kind of, put you in a controlled environment just to understand the phenomenon a little bit? Not to debunk it, but to understand.
Going through physical therapy where I actually have to learn how to talk and maintain it at the same time. When I would go through physical therapy, I have 2 artificial discs in my neck, and my whole upper cervical area has been in a bad situation for many, many more years of my life than bad than good. And going through physical therapy, they wanted you to always completely relax your body, give them full ability to do what they need to do, no resistance. And the easiest way I found to give them full control of my body was to literally leave it. And so just doing that many, many, many times in a row, it just, the more you delved into it, the easier it got and the more things that you could explore.
Okay, right on. So, all right, we do have a good question, but Dan, you're on Facebook. You're supposed to ask the question on YouTube, but because it's a really good question and you're my old chum from MUFON Canada, I'm going to hack the system. But next time, you got to be on YouTube. Okay, you got to be on YouTube. So Dan Jones says, did you get the feeling that Greys are incomplete self-service with no regard to anyone else? I'm very interested in Grey activity because I believe they abduct us to upgrade and preserve their race from implants to various extractions. They need our DNA. What do you think?
Well, they're their own entities. They follow no one's rules besides their own. They come and please as they want. They do as they want. They take who they want, whether it's an animal or a human, and they do to them what they want. So would you call that self-service, Ryan?
Debatable.
Yeah, they have their own cause. I'm not sure if we're looking at, they always talk about, why would people want to look at the people on Earth like an anthill, or something to that extent? Why would an alien of super intelligence want to deal with an ant colony? But the thing is, we could look at this thing, maybe they've got, they're more like the ant mind to a degree, super highly advanced, but it's just a different mindset, completely different paradigm that they operate in. That's why it's so alien to us. My only concern is we're getting 4, 5, 6, 10 UFOs showing up over metropolitan areas at this point. And it's increasing, and it's greatly increased in how frequently it's happening over the last 6 months. When is it going to start being 10 on a regular basis, 20, 30? What's the end game? What's going on behind it? Because we don't have to worry about them coming from space. They're already here.
That's where the documentation comes from. That's where the reporting comes from, and then executing it into that data set and all that other stuff too. So that's let me worry about that. Just get the reports coming in, and then we'll start plotting everything, and then we'll be able to do a deeper dive. Dan,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I go through UFO reports. I mean, if you want to call it sighting videos and debunk videos and a whole bunch of stuff every single week. And it's just been, I've been talking about this with the crew of UFO Man, that there's been an increase in this. And especially starting since the first of the year, it's really been going up. And it's just been I've been trying to figure out what the heck's going on with it. And it's something we should all be wondering about. We don't worry.
When I was on your podcast there, UFO Man, you guys mentioned to me at the very end of that episode that you want to help Tesa. Do you still want to do that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Chantel, who's watching, is our assistant operations manager, so she's gonna. This is going good. We'll consider this the interview process, and then maybe we'll reach out.
Yeah, cool.
So Dan Jones had said, can't find it on YouTube. I don't understand how you can't find it on YouTube when all the commercials say youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. It's right there. You're an investigator. I trained you. Come on, man. But on the plus side, I'll announce this kind of now. Dan Jones is a MUFON Canada investigator. He's still active. He has been talking to me privately, and he is jelly on the ultra spectrum classification system. And as you can tell with his question, he understands that there's more than just UFOs out there.
Oh yeah.
So Dan is in the process of joining our evidence team for Tesa. So I just kind of want to announce that since he's there, and it's on record, man. So get me that stuff. Cool. And then like he said,
rely on printing off directions on MapQuest before he goes someplace.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, guys, so we're going to head over to Patreon, I suppose. I'll play the commercial here. What are we going to talk on Patreon, Thomas? How about ancient astronaut theories? That's the only thing we haven't covered yet from your bio. Yeah. I want to know what your ancient astronaut theory is, and I'll tell you mine because ancient astronaut theory is what got me started. Yeah. In this first place. And my tattoo started with the ancient astronaut theory, so I love that. And I'm super excited to be able to talk that because this will be another first time too on this podcast as well.
Cool.
So for those of you guys watching, thank you so much, and have a great night. Keep your eyes in the sky, everybody, and heed the world. Peace. Oops. Try that one more time. I double tap that. Either